How I coach it, rows. Rows are a staple exercise in majority of the programming I think you will find from any trainer, any coach, any online platform. But the row can be pretty tricky, meaning if you're rowing incorrectly or ineffectively, you're gonna probably shrug a little bit more at your shoulders. You're probably gonna feel a little bit more tension than you should. So how I coach the row, this typically holds true, and I'll show a couple examples where maybe it doesn't, holds true through all different progressions. My favorite variation, and I'll actually grab a band to show, is using a band to perform the one arm row. Or two arm, or really just any row variation. And the reasoning is when I'm performing the row out of this position, with my arms extended and the band tied to something, at this position there is less tension, the least tension I'll ever experience in the movement at this most vulnerable position. So this allows me, as I pull the band in towards my body, as I reach a contraction in my back, I now have tension. So I'm moving from a position of safety, less tension, to a position of resistance when my muscles are creating the tension. So it's a nice, safe introductory position and method to rowing. From this position, and we'll get it from the side here, you can see a couple things. One, I'm driving my chest up. And what this allows me to do is keep my back flat. You hear that a lot, flat back, but what does that really mean? It just means you're trying to keep your torso long versus this crunch position here where I'm pulling. It doesn't really allow my arms, my shoulder blades to have a lot of movement across my ribs and my body. So from this nice long position, as I reach, my shoulder blades can come forward. From here, whether it's two arms or one arm, what this now has is a good 90-degree angle in my elbow and a good 90-degree position with my shoulders and my neck. And I like to bring that up because a lot of people tend to lean and rotate and they're now starting to shrug and they just get out of this big open position that we want as we row. So from the side you can see 90 degrees and then my shoulders come up and make 90 degrees. The head of my shoulder isn't coming forward or isn't flailing too far back. And I think that's something that isn't really addressed in rows a lot, is where that shoulder should finish in relation to the body. The answer, in line with the body. Unless you have a mirror in front of you or someone watching your form, it's really easy to think about, I gotta pull, and I'm gonna lean and reach back, and I'm gonna drive my shoulder too far back, the head of my shoulder is gonna come too far forward, now my bicep tendon in my shoulder is not really gonna feel good. So, row 101, long through your spine, elbow comes in, creates 90 degrees, the top of the shoulder creates 90 degrees with your neck. Okay. Now, if I move away from the band, the next progression that I like is typically going to be a 3-point row. 3 points meaning 3 points of contact. We can set up a couple different ways. It can be 1 foot, 2 foot, hand on the bench, 1 foot down, knee on the bench, hand on the bench. Both are 3-point row alternatives. And what I actually like to do is have people work off of the bench because it takes away just other things that you know, if you have 2 points of contact on the floor, it's the same point of contact versus 1 point of contact on the floor, 1 point of contact on the bench, and then another hand on the bench. You're doing 3 different things in 3 different parts of your body. This actually simplifies it, meaning I have foot, and I only have to really worry about where my hand goes on this bench. Keeping those same principles of position in mind, one, my body is long. And from this position, I like to use the analogy of creating a table where my feet are under my hips and my hand is under my shoulders. So I actually set up pretty close to the bench. This allows for me to keep my chest nice and long. And then when I grab my weight, I'm gonna use a kettlebell here. You could use anything, a landmine attachment, a dumbbell, kettlebell. There could be a band down here that I'm stepping on. Any implement will work. As I grab my kettlebell and get into position, the first thing I do is get long. So I'm not starting in this hunched position. I'm getting long. I'm letting my arm hang. As I create tension, I'm pulling my shoulder blade up. You can see that first movement without even pulling my elbow in is getting my shoulder blade up, and then my elbow is going to track down and away from my body, and then as I lean back to the floor, my arm hangs again. Shoulder blade, elbow, back down, back down. You can almost see it's being performed in a 2-part motion, and what this allows me to do is get my shoulder blade in a good position. My shoulder blade actually moves. As my shoulder blade comes in, then my elbow drives in. Rather than just driving my elbow back and not getting that movement at the shoulder blade, I'm missing out on a huge part of the actual movement and something that's really good for shoulder health. So again, as you can see, shoulder, elbow, elbow, shoulder versus elbow, I'm not actually gonna get that shoulder movement. So how I coach the row, 1, angles, 90 in the elbow, 90 in the neck, and then 2 parts, shoulder, elbow, elbow, shoulder, in and out of the movement, and that holds true for any implement.